Hello, 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 and welcome to Business Mindset with SheABOS. It's your girl, Angela Boss Middleton, coming to you on this June. God dang it, I never get to know what date is it? The 4th, the 3rd, June 3rd at 6 o'clock. Y'all like my background? I am at one of my go to spots at the MGM National Harbor, just in the lobby chilling, sucking up their Wi Fi, having me a good time. Nice little Chardonnay, nice air condition, doing what I do. Today, we are featuring book authors. So, I have two dynamic upcoming book authors that will release their books this month and in July. But first, I want to introduce my first feature, Reverend Dwayne Harrell.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Just humbled by the fact that you allowed me to be a part of the show today.
Likewise, likewise. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to get to know you a little better and your first book venture. I'm so happy and proud for you that you've gone on this journey. You've completed this journey, and now you're here to share with us, my Shea Boss family. Thank you so much for doing that. So let's get down to it. Let's talk about your book. Let's talk about how you came to write it. What were you thinking? Why were you thinking? When were you thinking? And how did it all come to fruition? I know there's a lot of questions I'm just throwing at you.
Well, the name of the book is entitled Uplift, and
Okay.
Uplift consists of prayer, sermons, and inspirational scriptures and quotes. This prayer. Sermons and inspirational quotes were actually done during my tenure. I was humbled and honored by the fact to serve as the second district chaplain for Omega Psi Phi fraternity from 2016 until 2020. And what
Mm-hmm.
that involved was I was responsible for 5 states in the second district, which included New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, and Pennsylvania. And I had an opportunity to speak and preach in a potpourri of cities within those states. And one of the things that folks would ask me once I finished the sermon, they would ask for copies, manuscript of my sermons. And I was thinking, well, you probably can't read what I wrote down. And the thought came to me during the pandemic. I mean, I was always planning on putting the inspirational scriptures in a book because during my 4 year tenure, I sent out inspirational scriptures daily for 4 years to fraternity, family, and friends.
Mm-hmm.
That was always a goal for me. But when we got into the pandemic and I started thinking about some things, and I said to myself, I said, Self, why don't you put some of the prayers and the sermons in the book as well for at least volume 1, and then decide what you're going to do with volume 2 later. And as you can see, Uplift is that's very near and dear to not only me but all the men of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, because that's one of our cardinal principles: manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. So I was very intentional with the title of the book as well as the color scheme, sending a message of purple and gold. But having said that, this message is not just for the fraternity. This book is for everyone. I had the forward done by Bishop Staccato Powell, who's one of our previous we call him the Grand Chaplain. He's one of our immediate past Grand Chaplains of the entire fraternity. He was kind enough to do my forward. And then I had the preface done by one of the chairman of the COVID-19 task force. One of the things that I had the opportunity to do during my tenure as district chaplain was international prayer during the COVID pandemic, and this was an international prayer that went to everyone all over the world. And I was also participating in the COVID task force. uh, just a sneak preview, shameless plug for the COVID task force. Last summer of last year, we did a online cookout, a virtual cookout, raised over $15,000 in 4 hours, and helped replenish PPE across the second district, as well as replenish a lot of the food banks that were going on then that during that turbulent time that we were going through even then. So uplift is about reaching the affective domain of the reader to let them know that there's light at the end of the tunnel and it's not another train coming.
There's not another train coming. This is it. Jump on or get lost.
One of the things that I would like to share with this audience is that initially I was going to do traditional publishing. And can I tell the truth and shame the devil? Doing my research,
Please.
everyone that I contacted and had conversations with, they were trying to scam. I'm going to just be
Mm.
transparent. They were trying to scam, and I hate to say it, but especially the businesses that had the word Christian in front of their name. Some of them were the biggest scammers, and
But you
so
know what? This is the reason why we have this platform that we have right now to share the wisdom that you're about to share with us, so we don't get scammed, right? Lessons learned from someone that has already gone through, that have already experienced. Now you can share with the rest of us your lessons learned.
exactly. And
I appreciate that.
once I decided to self-publish, I started doing my research, et cetera, and the rest is history. I'm not bragging or anything, but pre-order. I started pre-order sales a month ago, and last time I checked, I'm up to 110 of pre-order sales, and also went and got my credentials to sell at all of the base exchanges throughout the nation and throughout the world. And I plan on doing a tour once my book is released. The book is scheduled to be released on July 18th. That was by design because that would have been my mom's 90th birthday, July 18th. And I've also dedicated the book in her memory. And so I'm just excited about what has happened and what will happen. And I look at it like this: if you can't come up with at least one project that is near and dear to you during a pandemic, you might as well just go out in the backyard and choke yourself.
We're not going to do that, but we but we are going to talk about what how long did it take you to consolidate all of your thoughts and your prayers into this manuscript, this book that you have.
Well, as far as planning purposes,
Mhm.
I think I started the project with the timeline of July 18th, maybe back in late February, early March, because I knew that if I set a timeline and a release date, it would motivate me not to procrastinate. And so I just worked backwards in the planning stage, and I'm pretty much ahead of the game now because I'm actually finished with the book. I'm just looking over the proof to make sure that it's exactly the way I want it, because I did get a production team in Atlanta. They're called Custom Made for You. They actually did the cover design, and they're actually putting the production of the book together. And I was so impressed with them. I'm also going to have them print the book for me as well. So the way I was able to save money was, as opposed to the astronomical fee for traditional publishing, I did all that myself, and I just hired the appropriate people to do the things that was out of my lane.
So what do you mean by appropriate people? Can
Well,
can you elaborate on that?
yes, Custom Made for You is a company that's in Atlanta, and it just so happened, I didn't know this. The way I came across them, I went to the BX at Andrews Air Force Base, and there was a gentleman that was selling his book, And I walked up to him and I said, "Hey, I'm in the process of self-publishing. I wanted to do the traditional method, but I was about to get scammed." And he told me, he said, "Well, I did get scammed, and that's why I'm self-publishing now." And I said, "Well, who does your design, et cetera, et cetera?" And he referred the company in Atlanta to me with very high marks, and I've been, real pleased with them as well. And so the rest is history. Synergy and networking, just like you're doing now, is what is the recipe for success. People do business with people they know, people they trust, and through referrals.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you for mentioning that because that is definitely the platform that I wanted to create for this podcast is to help share information, to synergize and to network. So thank you for bringing that up. So for you self-published, you used a company to edit. What about photography?
Well, not to edit. I used
Okay,
custom made for you to
custom
do
made for you.
to do the book cover as well as the production of the book itself.
I see.
Uh, um, for editor, I used a friend of mine, one of my uh, fraternity brothers' wife. We go back to undergraduate college days with my fraternity brother. She used to be an editor for the Stars and Stripes newspaper in Europe, and she was also editor for USA Gov. So she was my main editor, and I had a couple of editor consultants that worked with me as well. Another one of my fraternity brothers that used to be a writer for the Metro section for the Washington Post. We actually went to college undergraduate together as well, and he lives right here in D.C. I call him the Beltway Bandit now because he does tech writing for a lot of the government agencies now as a contractor. And so that is pretty much how I did it. I also invest in my landing page, and the landing page kind of paid for itself because again, my pre-order sales have been, in my opinion, far greater than what I had anticipated, and it just gets better and better. And I'm looking forward to doing the tour at the AFES Base Exchanges because nobody tells your story better than you about any project that you are associated with. It's one thing to put a book on a shelf and hope and pray that somebody picks it up. It's another thing to meet and greet them and tell them your story, win, lose, or draw.
That is absolutely true. It's nothing like hearing it from the horse's mouth, talking to people live and getting their perspective and asking questions. And with that, I want to thank my live audience that's joining me today on Business Mindset with SheABOS. Thank you so much for joining in to talk with book authors, author of Uplift, Dwayne Harold. And we have some questions. Miss Bryant, how did you do pre-sales? Good question.
Uh, the way I initially started the pre-sales is once I got my the cover scheme together, the cover of Uplift, I went to Kinko's and had a card made that talked about the book, et cetera, and I also put it on Facebook. And believe it or not, the initial portion of my pre-sales, all the sales were coming in via Cash App, and then I discovered that some people don't do Cash App, some people don't do any app. They started mailing me checks in, and so that was good too. And then I finally broke down and said, let me go ahead and get PayPal. Now I got PayPal, and folks can order in any method that pleases them. So pre-sales was pretty much done through Facebook, text, email, just letting folks know that the release date is July 18th. Pre-sales are available, and that type of thing.
Great, thank you. We have another question from my Facebook group who users don't, they're not identified. So I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. So type your name in the comments so I know exactly who you are. But will the book be in electronic format? Because I'm electronic format girl myself. That's why I don't have the book, but I'm gonna download it.
It's funny. It's funny you should ask that question, and the answer is yes. It will eventually be in electronic format. I was laughing just the other day because the book is complete, and I have the proof, and I'm just going over it to make sure that everything, the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And the laptop that I'm using now, when I go through the proofs, it actually speaks to me. So I just listen to the book while I'm looking at it dart across the words. I know I'm showing my age, but the old school cartoons when you had to follow the bouncing ball. So I'm just listening to it, and I thought about that. I'm like, hey, wait a minute, this needs to be electronic, but I
Yes.
want to figure out how I can put my voice in
Yeah.
for the electronic portion of it. But the answer to your question is yes. Thank you for confirming that aspiration.
There you go. It's affirmed. So soft copy and audio format. That's what we need. Oh,
and
that's Marie. Thank you, Marie, for the question.
and that question made me think about something else that I want to share. Speaking of synergy and networking, when I started the pre-sales, I started joining a lot of Facebook groups. And one of the groups that I joined, there was someone that was soliciting for co-authors. And so, to make a long story short, I'm also co-author with a book entitled "Finding Joy in Your Journey." And the reason this is so important is it's a collaboration of 89 additional authors that are telling their story about finding joy in their journey through the COVID-19 pandemic. And not only is that just win-win, the book will actually be a bestseller before it actually is printed because they put it on Kindle and several other avenues that causes the sales to skyrocket. So by the time we go live in August, it'll already be a bestseller. And don't be surprised that after that happens, the next print of Uplift will say best-selling author.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're speaking into existence. Okay, last question. How many times did you self edit? That's important.
Well, that's a great question
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a firm believer after 21 and a half years in the Air Force and 10 years of that time I was a professional in professional military education, and I used to teach and preach to the students. There's no such animal as a perfect writer, only perfect editing. And I can't even remember how many times I go back to look at the proof. I have a professional editor looking at it. I look at it myself. I get my peers to look at it, because the last thing I want is for someone to look at my project and find a mistake. And so the editing continues, but at some point I'm gonna have to say, okay, I'm gonna sign off. We can do it because I don't want to be late with my July 18th release date. But I can't even count the times that I've edited. But there's continue to my recommendation is you become too close to your own work.
Absolutely.
Do not be hesitant to allow others to look at your work. I guarantee you, synergy is like this. If I ask three people to name every city, we won't get all of the cities. But if I ask 50 people, the list will get larger. The same thing is with editing.
And to add to that, Reverend Harrell, you always want to ask someone that is apart from the project to read your work. Much like work, much like school, you want someone that's away from your project. If I'm writing a editing piece on a piece of technology, I'm going to have an end user, read that manuscript, read that user guide to make sure, okay, I'm knee deep in it. I understand it with my eyes closed and I'm sleep in REM. If they can understand what I wrote, then it's golden. So not only should you have someone that's close to the project, but you should have someone that's far away from the project as well. So you'll have an input of if it even makes sense
I
to
agree.
um, the non-traditional reader. So, Mr. Reverend Harrell, how can they learn more about the book, and where can they get more information about you?
Well, my landing page slash website is www.dwayneharrell.com, DWAINHARRELL.com, and that has a bio of me, and it also has an opportunity to pre-order the book itself. And I look forward to communicating with anyone. Also on the website is my cell number. You know, if you need any additional guidance, feel free to call me or email me. If you pre-order the book and you fill out the form, that comes to me with your information, and I'm just here. I'm just here to serve.
Thank you so much for being here with Business Mindset with Shea Boss. We appreciate you so much and good luck with your book, Uplift, that will be available on July 18th.
Well, the release is July 18th. The
Okay,
pre-sale orders, you can order it now.
right now. Right now,
Right
pre
now.
sale order right now, and it'll be released on July 18th. So, thank you, Reverend Dwayne Harrell, and your book, Uplift.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and enjoy the rest of your week, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So next we have Miss Julia Long, who is first time co-author in her book. So let's get to meet Miss Long.
Good
Hello
evening.
there.
Good evening, everybody.
How are you?
I'm doing
Oh,
great.
let me take this down. You're no longer Rev. Okay. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you have to share with us today? What book did you co-author?
Well, the book that I'm a part of is actually an anthology project. It's called Hurt to Healing, and
Mm,
the person that was given the birth of this book, her name is Cheryl Prince. She's also an author of several children's books and another book called Candid, which is
okay.
available on Amazon. But it was her baby, and I was asked to join because she heard a testimony about my life, and
Mm.
she thought, she prayed. She said she prayed on it, and she just asked God to lead the right women to be a part of the project because she didn't want any drama. She wanted to make sure that um, it will glorify God, and so she asked me to be a part of it, and that's like sure.
Absolutely. That is wonderful. So how did you go about your project? Like what were you asked to contribute?
Well, basically, it's 21 women, including myself. And she asked us to give one story in particular of how we went from a hurt position to healing.
Mm,
And she wanted to have a collaboration of extraordinary women that overcame obstacles, you know, um,
mm.
and it ranges
That can
from.
speak for a lot of us, huh?
Yes, and it covers so many problems or issues that we face today, especially in African American families. And I would even dare to say to any average American family, from mental health challenges, from drug addiction, sexual abuse, incest, rape. um challenging marriages or abusive relationships, and they're just self-esteem. Some things that aren't violent or negative in that sense. It's just yourself. Some people not seeing the quality of themselves and the journey that they had to come to go through to find out who they were. Self-identification, I guess. you know
That sounds very. I was thinking the exact same thing, sis. Oh my, it's similar to my story. So let me just a quick plug, Miss Tamika Bryan. I invited her today to come and listen to you all because she has a similar story that she just needs to share, needs to get out. So I was like,
Mhm.
hey, I have some book authors that's already published. Come on in and let's talk about it. And
Yes,
how can they help you do what they've already done?
exactly.
Yeah. So you were approached when, and how long did it take you to contribute?
I believe it was in March, the beginning of March, I want to say,
Okay.
of this year.
Shut up.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was very, very fast. And
Wow.
to look at this, I know God was all mixed up in that. He
Has to
orchestrated it
be.
all. Hmm.
Has to
Yes.
be.
Yeah, I believe it could have, it may have, it was this year to be,
Uh-huh.
it was this year. So even from the beginning of the year to now, this is extraordinary.
Wow. Okay. So just in a couple of months, you were asked to contribute. You actually contributed, wrote whatever you wanted to
Mm,
have included. They put it together, and you said it was what, how many? 21, 22,
21. It's 20,
21
it's
other
20,
women
right. 20 other
that
women, including myself.
contributed.
Hmm.
They published, and now you're going, your release is on what day?
June 11th
June
on
11th. So we're
Amazon.
talking
Yes.
what, next week?
Next week.
Next week you are going live on Amazon. Oh my gosh, how exciting is
Mm,
that? Nothing but the glory of God. Oh my gosh,
mm,
that
mm,
is
mm.
so, that's quick. Okay, so I didn't know that you could write a book so
Yeah.
fast and have it
Yeah.
published. So can you tell us, do you know if they self-published, or what the process was?
Well, I believe this is a baby publishing company, self-published,
Mm-hmm.
from Miss Cheryl. I'm sorry, Cheryl Prince is her
Okay.
baby, and I think she birthed this through her second book, I believe.
Mm,
You
okay.
know, and so it's been taken off, and she actually published other people books. So there's other books under this published under her publishing company.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is she owns her own publishing company.
Yes,
Oh, that's awesome.
yes,
Okay, so
yes,
now we have a resource
yes,
that we can
absolutely.
utilize.
Hmm.
Okay, okay. Now that is what I need to hear, honey.
Yes, yes.
So
She's
we're gonna get that
extraordinary.
information and
I
definitely share that out.
um she's you will find her book on Amazon. She
Okay,
had Candid. Oh my God, that book I read, I purchased it in one day. As soon as the day I got it, I read it in one day. I read
couldn't
all
put
the
it
time, but I
down.
couldn't put it down. I could not
Yeah.
put it down. It was that good. It was um she has a way of being able to pull you, pull you. Even when she was editing my story, I'm like, oh wow, I want to read some more.
Oh, that sounds good.
That
Whose
sounds
story is
good.
this? Like,
Yes,
oh,
like,
that's
"Ooh, what else
me.
happened?" Yeah, but
Has a
she
way
has
with
like
words
a
and telling a story. I love
yes,
storytellers.
she's a storyteller. She actually is, and she has a way of you can feel the emotions. It's like it's an emotional roller coaster. You can feel the excitement, you can feel the pain, you can feel the joy. I mean, it's she pulls it out of you. And if you saw the garbage I gave her, mm, rejoice. It was her and the Holy Ghost, I'm telling you. I needed
Look
I'm
like
not
a three, a 180, huh?
yes,
From
she did.
what you inputted to what the finished product was.
Yes, because let me be honest with you, when I started, the story, um, it happened so long ago that when you go back, because I wanted to be as authentic as possible. I mean, I'm authentic, but I'm just trying to re pull on how I was feeling, things like that. Like I'm over it now. You understand? And I was trying to to kind of remember what it was I was going through during those times. And it was hard. I mean, I felt like I had a slight little breakdown because I'm like, I thought I was over that. I
It's
thought I
nothing,
was,
nothing to shame. It's not slight. It's not little. You have every right to have your feelings,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you should express them in any means that it comes out.
Yeah. Well, I had to do that by myself first
Mhm.
because when like I said, a lot of our stories are like some are recent, some are old. We have grown and have really healed emotionally from it. And I didn't want to injure anyone that I've forgiven. You understand what I'm saying? So I was very conscious about not. Um, Focusing on the act itself, but to focus on how God pulled me out of that pit.
Yeah, understand.
So and that was that's my primary focus on how God can um you know it's like you have to settle yourself. I did
Yeah.
a whole lot of praying, God, please give me the words. I don't want to
Mhm.
move on this thing because even though it's a good thing to do, I don't want to make a move and I'm going to injure so many people that has
Yeah.
forgiven, has healed, is like so many things. I don't want to open that door. I just want to talk about how God healed me from it. You understand?
Right, right,
And
right.
and
And
it's
you know
not.
the whole title of the book, From Hurting to Healing. You don't want to
Yes.
hurt any more people. Like Miss
Mm-mm.
Bryant said, you don't want to dishonor any more people because
Exactly.
you've already healed from it, but it still
Exactly.
hurts, you're
Right.
still telling the story.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's like if so many people get caught thinking that they will never get over hurting someone. It's one thing to
Mhm.
help somebody to hurt you, but even if you hurt somebody and you're
There,
not that
yeah.
same person, you're like, hold up, I don't
You
want
have to look in the mirror.
yes, absolutely
Have to look
is
in the mirror and own your
absolutely
own shit.
own it.
This internet, so I can say what I want. Own your own stuff.
Own it. And that's what I had to do. And I consulted with my spiritual leaders. I consulted with my family that's close to me, and those and I just had some quiet time, and I just said, Lord, I know that this book is going to break the yoke off of so many people. It's going to transform so many people's lives because some people don't think they can get past it, the guilt of hurting somebody, of traumatizing somebody, that
Girl, you
in
are
itself,
talking today.
you understand? So all of
Yes.
that, you want to be able to say, I, you can. People have had addictions that injured their family and their children or their spouses, their parents, siblings. You want them to know, hey, it is a light at the end of the tunnel. You don't have to feel alone. You don't. In this book, just like so many other books,
Mm.
like somebody told me, like, what makes your story so different? Because it's me.
It's yours.
It's
It's your
mine.
story.
I'm
It's your hurt.
uniquely, yes. And there's
Yeah.
a story for my story is going to heal somebody. There's billions of people out there,
Absolutely.
so that's how I look
Absolutely.
at it.
Oh my gosh. And it's not a contest on who has the worst story, or who was hurt the worst. It's
Right,
your story.
right.
And if you share your story, then there's someone in out there that
Hmm.
can relate, that
Yes.
you can actually help. And that's
Mhm.
the whole point. Each one help one.
One. Hmm.
So if
Yeah,
you just help one, you've done your due diligence.
exactly. And that's
Great. I
it's a
love it.
testimony. It's like how can I say God is a healer? I'm a minister.
Come on now.
So it's like how can I tell people that God's word really does work?
Mhm.
It does.
Mhm.
It's not like it's no Ouija board or anything like because it's
It's
power.
real.
It's just real, just authentic power that God gives grants us. We can get past it. We can get past it. And there's a scripture that I love. I wish I knew the scriptures like that, but I don't. I know the stories. It says
Hide as long
your
as it's
latter
hidden
days,
in your heart. He see it.
your greater days are ahead of you. And I love that because I have something to look forward to. I don't focus on the past. I done messed up enough. I don't need to focus on it. you
Did
know
that, done that.
mhm.
Yep. So
Yep.
let's see what Tamika say. Each story touches the person that's meant to hear it.
You better say it.
Yes, there's going to be
Amen.
someone who can relate.
Amen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Amen.
Thank you so much for sharing, sis.
Amen.
Yes,
That's
yes.
good. That's good.
Everything. It's something for everyone. That
Mhm.
in your story, if no one else,
Yep.
that one person, then you've done what God appointed you to do.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. I'm now really excited to read this book. I just know I need to have some tissue, on the
Yes.
side because it's going to touch you. You're going to feel it. You're going to
Mhm.
feel everything. How you explain. Um, the majority author is a dynamic storyteller, so she's writing it in a way that you're going to feel it. So I am
Yeah.
so looking forward to this.
Yes. Yes. She's amazing.
Thank you.
And to
Thank
see how
you.
I told her editors are like plumbers to me now. I will always say,
Mm,
pay a plumber what they ask for because you don't know the crap they deal with.
yeah. Yeah.
Literally. Okay. Give them the money. All right.
Right.
Editors, give them the money.
Mm-hmm.
Give it to them. They
let
deserve it.
let them do what they do
Let
best.
exactly.
Let them do what they do best. We
Yes.
have such a subject matter experts for a reason.
Mhm.
You are expert at one thing, call somebody else that's expert at another
Yes.
thing. Don't
And
try to do it all. Don't try to
that's
be
right.
everything and everyone.
She has a friend. I believe she's going to be that did the graphics. I thought that
Mm,
it is
it is very
phenomenal,
appealing.
and she's going to share her story as well. And I'm telling you, when you listen to these stories, I'm
Yeah.
just I have goosebumps. I wish
Mm,
I have goosebumps because I'm so excited about um how this how it's going to impact people. I just know it.
yeah.
And Cheryl, Miss Prince, she's going
Mm-hmm.
to have us once we get the book publishing. What is she? Book signing. She's going
Okay.
to set up engagements for us to go, and she may have a few of us here, a few of there,
Yeah.
traveling promoting the book.
Yeah,
Mhm.
please share with me. You are a loyal listener of Business Mindset with Shea Boss, and I forever thank you every single week. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you,
You're
thank you
welcome.
for being here. So obviously, I want to contribute to your success and the
Thank
success
you.
of your book. So please, when you have any information, if you're doing anything, share with
I
Shea
will.
Boss, and I will do everything that I can to promote. We have a question. Let's see. Okay, what's a typical price range for professional editing for about 150 pages?
Wow, I wished I would know that question.
Okay. And if you don't, then we will take that question, and I have contact with other authors and
Yeah.
self-publishers. We can
Mhm.
get in contact with Miss Cheryl herself, right?
Yes.
And try to figure that out for you. So
You
that
can contact
question will
Yeah.
not be landed on deaf ears. We will definitely get a response for you.
Yes, you can contact her at her website at
Oh,
Nora Publishing House.
Nora, Nora.
Noire Publishing House.
Mm-mm, say that again. R. Oh, oh,
NOIRE Publishing House. Yeah.
Nor. Got it.
Nora. Mhm.
Nice. Okay, so I just
Yeah.
shared that. Wonderful. Okay, so we are looking forward to next week, June 11th, From Hurting to Healing
Healing.
hits the stage, the Amazon, the book. I can't even say bookshelf no more. Do we even have bookshelves?
I
Like
know. I do
we all
everything.
order things. We
Yes,
order
I order
everything.
online. I read books every
Yes.
single day, several books a day.
Good.
Um,
You're reading
listen.
books. Okay, so I'm going to ask you the same questions, or I'm going to present rather the same questions that our previous author had. And because I thought they were good questions, one of our Facebook users asked, "Will the book be in electronic format?"
Um,
So can you download it? Not audio, but can you download the book, or is it only in hard copy?
I believe it. I believe it will.
Okay.
But I would have to. God, I wish I would have known that. I would have been ready. I'm not sure, but I
Okay.
believe so because one of several of her books I saw that you can download it, but I'm not sure to answer your question. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay because with a publishing company, and if she had previous books that were downloadable, then it's
Hmm.
maybe obvious, right, that
Yeah.
this book too will have a download version, electronic version.
Yes.
Okay, so let's see. Next question: How did you do pre-sales? So it's available on June 11th, or June
On June 11th,
11th,
she decided
right?
not to do that.
Oh,
Because
okay.
yeah, so there was
So
it was
why is that?
because so many people, because by it being so many co-authors, everyone wanted to have autographed books,
Um,
autographed copies, and then the cost, we're self-publishing and all of
mm-hmm.
trying to keep the cost down. um but it would have been uh challenging to
Okay.
have all of the books going, things like that, because you have to pay for it up front.
Okay, that's a good response. So the last question: How many times did you self edit? So when you wrote your story, did you just write it and be like here?
No, let me tell you, the first one, I had maybe 20 something pages, and it's only supposed to be
Oh,
like 5 or 6.
okay. So you just put it all out there. All right.
Let me tell you, I was just like, "Bleh."
But
And
you
then
know
it
what?
was like,
Sorry, go ahead.
it was just some, and because I've had so many traumatic experiences, some of them kind of blended with each other. So I had to like
Yeah.
cut it down so that we stay focused on that one story, you know. But it was like a train of trauma, or
Yeah.
and it pushed me, like certain things happened. Quite a bit of the story was taken out,
Okay.
you
So
know.
I mean, but that's what they teach in writing class, and I'm not sure if you've ever taken writing class. They always say put everything out
Hmm.
there, write everything, and
Yeah,
then it's easier to shave it.
exactly.
Even
Yeah.
even at work, they say write everything, put
Hmm.
everything on paper, and then shave it if you have to.
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
and that's exactly what she did.
Okay. So that's a good point. So
Hmm.
again, thank you live viewers for joining Business
Thank
Mindset
you.
with Shea Boss. Thank you to co-author of From Hurting to Healing, Julia Long. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining June 11th. Let me put this banner down so they can see, okay, the entire book available June 11th, From Hurting to Healing. We are so proud of you. I love
Thank
you with
you.
everything.
Oh,
I wish you the very, very best. So how
mhm.
on June 11th, where's it going to be available? Tell us that.
On Amazon.
On Amazon. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're going to Amazon.com and we're going to get this book From Hurting to Healing. They say
Thank you,
thank you,
Tamika.
Miss Long, and
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so we're so excited for you. So again, June 11th, Amazon.com, From Hurting to Healing, co-author of From Hurting to Healing, Miss Julia Long. Thank you
All
so
right.
much
You're
for
welcome.
joining us. We
You're welcome.
appreciate you.
Oh, most but definitely. I appreciate you guys. You have no idea.
All right, well, take care.
All right.
Well, we have one more. See, I told you I had a slew of them for you. So I had another that I actually had to pre record because this gentleman wasn't available for today. But if you have any questions on his book, then you can again just put it in the comment and I will make sure that he gets it and answers the questions. So here we go. Hello, and thank you for joining Business Mindset with SheABOS. I am your girl, Angela Boss Middleton. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, I have a very special guest. I am highlighting authors today. So I have the author of Raising Ivy, Mr. Greg Monora Sr. Welcome, sir.
Well, hello, Angela. Thanks for having me. Good to be
Thank
here.
you so much for joining me. It's been a long road. I've been trying to pull this man for some time, but our schedules did not mix. So when I learned how to really manipulate my application, I was like, hey, I can do some pre-recording. So this is how I was able to talk to you today. So thank you so
Well,
much for giving me a moment.
indeed, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Sure. So let's get down to it and talk about Raising Ivy. You are an author. How did you become an author? Like, what made you want to write a book?
Well, it's one of those things that I don't think it ever just happens overnight. It's something that I've enjoyed doing for years. So I've written many things, articles for church, children's church
Okay.
ministry, and those type things. And over the years, it just compiled more and more. Articles, little things that I'd written, sayings that I've gotten from my grandmother and others along the years. And
Mm.
so finally, just after thinking about it for years, finally just sat down and said, you know what? And people have said you should just write a book. And so I finally sat down and did it. And so that's the result. And glad we finally did it, finally got to it because it was kind of really a labor of love. So glad to have it
Mhm.
actually published now.
So, when did you start writing? How long did it take you?
Yeah. So I always say, I started writing in my mind probably 10 years ago, and I actually sat
Okay.
down to really seriously write the book. It probably took about 6 or 7 months of actually
Okay.
writing at a regular pace each week to get
Mhm.
down to actually having something ready to publish.
Okay, so you were saying each week, did you have a predetermined period when you would just say, I'm going to sit down and write on whatever day for however long? Or
Yeah,
was it just whenever the spirit hit you, you just wrote?
yeah, kind of a combination, but definitely had a schedule every weekend,
Okay.
especially on Saturday mornings. I would sit down and dedicate a couple of hours at least to writing. And sometimes I'd get into a groove and it'd go longer. But on Saturdays, either at home in my office or at the bookstore, my wife and I go grab a cup of coffee, sit at the bookstore, and I'd actually
Mhm.
write. Sometimes actually on the computer, sometimes longhand, and then translate it to the computer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. So did you experience what do they call writer's block
Writing
during
block.
your during your first effort?
No, I really didn't. And I think that's probably the case with most writers. The first one, because it's like this hunger, this thing that has been burning inside
Ah.
you. Typically, you don't get that during the first one. It's when people try and force a second one out, and it wasn't really
Ah.
something that was burning inside of you, but you feel like you're supposed to do another one, I think you tend to get into those, that thing that they call writer's block. But the first
Right.
one, it was like I had to really focus to do other things, like go to work and do other things rather than sit down and
Mhm.
write. It's just flowing out, almost at a pace that I couldn't keep up with.
Okay. Okay. So tell us a little bit about Raising Ivy.
Well,
What is the book about?
Well, great. The Raising Ivy is really so the full title is Raising Ivy: Faith, Family, and Football on Our Journey to Yale and Back. So it's really the story of our family's journey from poverty in the cotton fields of Alabama to the halls of the Ivy League. And the
Right.
culmination of the book really is my youngest son goes to not only goes to Yale, but becomes captain of the Yale football team. And for those familiar with the Ivy League, that's a pretty impressive feat for anyone, but definitely for a young black man because school is
Hmm.
still predominantly white. And there have only been five, with him being the fifth to ever be captain of the team in
Wow.
147 years. So it was pretty impressive. And I
Sad
decided
and impressive at the same time.
it really
Right.
is. But still have to be saying it's only the fifth. And the number of minority athletes has increased occasionally, but the overall tenor of how things are managed at the school still remains. So there's still work to be done, still barriers to be broken. But he happened to break that one. And so I thought it was great. It was important to capture that, not only his final feat, but how we all got there. And my granddaughters do a little commercial for me that's really cute. And she says, buy my granddaddy's book and learn how we made it all the way from the cotton fields of Alabama to the halls of the Ivy League. And so it really is
Yes.
a labor of love that talks about that journey. So lots of stories about my grandmother and other ancestors as they toil through things like illiteracy and other challenges,
Mhm.
only to, and she never lived to see it, but to have a
Yeah.
fifth generation after her actually school and become captain of their football team.
It sounds very interesting. I didn't have the opportunity to get it, but I definitely will. Sounds very, very interesting. So after the 10 years and about 6, 7 months of actually writing the book, now you have this manuscript in your hand. Now what do you do?
So the next journey is finding a publisher, trying
Okay.
to find someone to publish. And so we end up doing something we call self-publishing, where you actually pay a good portion of the money to have it published and have a company do the editing, the marketing, the production of the book. And then
Okay.
you hope to, make most of that back on the other end as the book sells.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing about this one is it started selling pretty rapidly after it came out. But the way you sell books as a new author is really doing in-person events. And it
Okay.
came out in December of 2019. As you
Mm-hmm.
probably all know, something interesting happened to all of us. That's early winter and spring of 2020, which was COVID.
Yeah.
So no more in-person opportunities to have author signings. And so things really slowed down and really came to almost a screeching halt by the time we
Yeah.
hit March. But we've had several virtual events and had a chance to do some sales, but nothing at the pace we started out doing in January,
Mm-hmm.
February. So,
Yeah, because I do remember you were going out, and as soon as I was going to come to one of the events because it was actually here
yeah,
in my local area, then that's when I started hearing word about this thing going on called COVID, and I'm like, yeah, I don't feel like going outside now, like many other people. So yeah, I couldn't imagine that that took a drastic halt on your sales. So then what did you do? Did you turn to social media?
Yeah, yeah, we did a lot of social media advertising, and unfortunately, I'm not nearly as social on social media as some, so has not been as impactful as probably could have been. And
Mm-hmm.
quite frankly, we had this spurt where I was doing quite a bit, and then over the last several months, between the job and things opening back up, we've kind of slowed down. I haven't had a virtual event, I think, since I want to say it's March was the last one.
Okay.
So we'll start to get back into that this summer, and hopefully more of the libraries and bookstores will start to have live events again where they feature authors and new authors, and we get a chance to. In fact, Blacks in Government is still debating whether they're going to have their annual event
Yeah.
conference in person, and if they do, I've applied to be one of the presenters there. So
Okay.
that's how we start to get back into being live in front of folks,
Mm-hmm.
chance to talk about the book, sign copies for folks, and that tends to really boost sales pretty rapidly.
Awesome. Awesome. So going back to that self-publishing part, can you go into a little more depth into having to find, well, I guess you don't have to find a publishing company because you self-publish, right? Like what's the difference?
Yeah, so it's still finding a publishing company. The
Okay.
part just means you pay for most
Oh, I
of
see.
the actual production of the book. So,
Mm-hmm.
but you still have to find a company that you're happy with, that you trust, and so forth, and that will, that's the kind of the journey that you have to go on. And like any business, you're looking at different companies, what they offer, and how trustworthy they are. So I ended
Mm-hmm.
up going with a company called Christian Faith Publishing because a lot of the
I've
book is
heard of that.
faith based.
Okay, I definitely heard of that company. So, what are some of the legalities that you had to deal with, if at all?
The really only legal parts is copyright and making sure that things in the book are not uh, what's the word? The word slipping my mind now, that is not plagiarized from
Mm-hmm.
other works and so forth. So you do that by you do simple Google word searches on titles, on other things that you put into the book, to make
Mm-hmm.
sure even that you don't inadvertently use something that someone has already published, even though you
Right.
may think it's original. So those are the biggest parts from the legal part. And then from a contractual standpoint, as you
Mm-hmm.
find the company and agree to go with them, signing a contract to make sure you're happy with what they say they're going to offer and they actually deliver that, and likewise what you're required to produce and pay them, and timing of publishing and all of those factors. So nothing major from like you need to get an attorney or anything, but
Yes.
as
Okay.
long as you're able to read through the contract yourself and feel comfortable that they're being on the up and up, and they'll produce what they promised, and things went pretty smoothly from there. Fairly happy with the company. Yeah, and like with anything, first time through, you learn a lot.
Yeah.
So there may be
Yeah.
things you do differently in the future, and perhaps even choose a different partner based on some other things that you'd like to accomplish.
Okay, so that's a good question that you brought up. As you learned, because it was your first
Mhm.
time, what would you do differently, if anything?
I think that the biggest thing is spend a little more time on the editing and find a company perhaps that does a little more of the actual editing and advising. This company was pretty much a we'll check, for grammar, and but you end up having to. I ended up having to read your own book several times
Mm,
to do the really deep dive editing, and have a friend or a spouse or someone read as well. And
mm-hmm.
that's probably something you do anyway. But there are companies that do a much better job, and they may cost a little more, but will actually do the reading and talk to you about structure. So
Okay.
we'll probably do a little more of that next time around.
Okay. So when it comes to editing a book, they suggested certain, like you said, structure of how it's supposed to be laid out, things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, they give you advice on that, everything from the cover to how chapters are arranged and featured on the page. But
Hmm.
again, there are companies that go a little deeper and will actually say, "Well, recommend you rearrange this, paragraph or things of that nature." The
Okay.
company that I went with did not do that type of in-depth editing. It was much more,
Hmm.
we're going to check for grammar, but you're going to, the rest is up to you.
Right.
She left
Okay.
out and not a lot of deep advice on actual arrangement of the chapters or the passages in the chapter. Very little advice
Hmm.
on things of that nature.
Okay. So trial and error, you did all of that yourself.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. But the first time doing anything is trial and error, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, lots of lessons learned.
Okay. Okay. Illustrations. You have a cover, right? You have a book. Were those personal pictures? Did you hire a photographer for
Well,
your book?
yeah, kind of. You go back to the copyright thing. So a combination of this. There were photos that we already had, and I don't know if they'll be able to see. So the cover of the book is, we talk about him being the captain. So there's a picture of him running out of the tunnel at the football game at Yale, and on the picture you can see him, in full figure, and there's a C on his chest, which is for captain. And so we already had this photo. We just had to get clearance, copyright to use it because it
Hmm.
is one that we purchased from the photographer who took this at the game. And basically, since we purchased it, we had the right to use it. We just had to give him credit in the book that
Okay.
took the photo. And so all the art is that way, either photos we've already had or published. So the back is a picture of the family,
Yeah, nice picture.
and then inside, there are just some pictures from different things at Yale and of the family. So they're all photos, but companies do actually do cover art illustration, and they would have done that if that's what you wanted to have some type of art on the book. But having that photo, and it's one that's pretty famous at Yale, they used it in a lot of their advertising while he was there, and had a big life side blow up of it in their athletic department because it just looks like a general running out marshaling his troops. So
Hmm.
I decided to go with that rather than any other cover art.
Okay. So let's talk about the naming of the book. How did you come about the name?
Yeah, we toured around with a lot of things. So we definitely wanted journey to be a part of the title because again, it's primarily about a journey. And the Ivy part, and a lot of times people ask that, say, is the person named Ivy? And that type,
Yeah.
of course, comes from the Ivy League. And so we centered on raising Ivy, one as a catchy, people get interested in what does it mean, tell me more
Hmm.
about it type thing. So it catches the attention. It's short, and it in our minds, or at least in mine, and of course, when I say our, I'm talking about my wife, my closest advisor on
Right,
the,
right.
in our mind, it captures the idea that from our ancestors on, we've been raising our children, and it ended up raising one to go to the Ivy League in the end. So that's how we kind of fell on the title.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Awesome. For those interested parties that would like to get a copy of Raising Ivy, how can they go about doing that?
So Raising Ivy is available on Amazon.com. It's also available on BarnesandNoble.com and Apple iTunes. So
Okay.
you simply go to Amazon and type in Raisin Ivy or my last name, and it'll pop up.
Okay. I am a what do you call it? Soft copy girl.
Yeah.
So so I'm gonna download that baby
Okay.
so
Yeah.
I can have it with me wherever I go.
I get a lot of people asking, well, is there an audio book?
That was gonna be my next question.
Not quite. Most of the time in self-publishing, that's a rather expensive endeavor. because either
Okay.
you have to read it yourself or pay someone to read it. So most of the time in the first go around with self-publishing, you do, paperback, and then they'll have an online version, but you have to read it yourself.
Okay.
No audiobook available.
Is that an upcoming project that you might want to think about?
You know, maybe. We'll see
Maybe.
what happens once we get back into live interaction with audiences and how sales go. Whether there will be further investment in this book, or do we leave that for the next iteration?
Now, see, you keep trailing me to the next question. What's next? Do you
Yeah,
plan on doing a second book?
we actually do. My wife and I have toyed around with doing one together.
Okay.
That's more of a children's book. So, like most things, we've discussed it, we have a concept, but finding time to sit down and do it continues to elude us. But hopefully, within the next year, we'll actually sit down and put pen to paper and have something, perhaps by this time next year, ready to publish.
Nice. Okay, so we'll look for the menorahs yet again on next year. Well, great. It's great talking to, again, author of Raising Ivy, Greg Menorah. And again, one more time, how can they get Raising Ivy?
So absolutely. Raising Ivy, available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and Apple iTunes. Just go on to Google or Amazon and type in Raising Ivy or my name, the author Greg Menorah, and it'll pop up and have it to you within days.
Nice. So especially Amazon,
Yes.
nothing slows them down. Well, great. Well, is there any advice that you will offer budding authors?
Yeah.
Offer authors.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most important thing is to write because that's something you love to do. I think one of the big mistakes people make rather is deciding to write for some other purpose, like perhaps, I'm going to be able to sell a lot of books, make a lot of money, or be famous, or things of that nature. And I
Mhm.
think if the writing comes from the heart, regardless if no one buys your book, if it's something you just had to get out of you, and I know my pastor would say that there is a book in most of us, and
Mhm.
but if we wait to write it because we're wondering who will read it or will people want to read it, then we'll never get started. So
Yeah.
you write it because you want to write it, not because you're concerned about who will read it. And I think that'll get you moving. And if nobody reads it but you, then it was still worth the effort to get it
Yeah.
out of you and get it onto pages.
That's good advice. Do it for you, if nothing else.
Yes.
And your granddaughter has her eye on the commercial, so
Yeah.
of course they will always be a part of it, and that's something that they can have to lead to their children. And my granddaddy wrote a book.
Absolutely. So it'll always be there into perpetuity, whether it sells a million copies or not. It'll always be
Mhm.
something that's published, and it's in all the Fairfax County libraries.
Oh, okay. Well, we left that part
Yeah,
out.
yeah. You can also check it out at Fairfax County and Charles County libraries. Both bought copies of it after some virtual things we did with them. They were so impressed with the book, they bought copies to have in their libraries.
Okay, well, good to know. Fairfax and Charles County libraries, in addition to getting it for yourself. Okay, great. Well, thank you for giving me your time again to promote Raising Ivy and to give us a little lesson about self-publishing.
Well, again, it is absolutely my pleasure. Sorry we were a little delayed in figuring out the technology and getting our schedule
That's
together.
okay. They don't know anything about that. It's recorded.
Absolutely a pleasure, and thank you so much for having me. And congratulations on what you're doing. Very
Thank
impressed
you.
and very proud to have opportunity to work with you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So again, Raising Ivy. Let's hit the bookstores and, well, I guess the social media and order Raising Ivy. Okay, sir. Thank you so much, and I wish you all the luck.
All right. My pleasure, Angela. Have a great evening.
You as well. Bye
Bye.
bye. I'm so, like, my mind is blown right now. All of these authors with such good advice. I want to write a book now. I didn't even think about writing a book until now, but they inspired they inspired me to want to write a dang old book. But thank you for joining Business Mindset with Shea Boss. Like, you see me, I'm like all up in the camera, like I'm in it. I was all up in the story. So let me come back. You can see me, my eyeballs all in the camera. Thank you so much for joining Business Mindset with Shea Boss as we talk to two budding authors and one established author um, for Raising Ivy, from hurting to healing, and uplift. So, obviously, like every other time, I will put all of their contact information on my feed. Please support us as we support each other, and good luck. I hope this was helpful for everyone or anyone or someone. And I will see you next week on Business Mindset with Chia Boss at 6 o'clock. Yes, go and write. I love it, Tamika. Go and write. So I will see you next week. Business Mindset with Chia Boss, 6 o'clock. Thank you for joining.